Hi. Hi.
This is a video.
Whee!
on backwards.
Oh, what we do? We just untighten this.
I'm gonna. No, because now you're getting all superior.
No.
It's like, all right. We'll back down and you can be the angry asshole.
Can we just make this video, please?
Oh, we can when it's fucking ready, can't we? I can't fucking.
Because we're just using
the
the crap
sound of that's
mic.
going to be fine, right?
Yeah, it'll be a bit crap.
Are you not in the camera?
No, I thought...
We just record this, yeah? Yeah? Hello, welcome back to Real Opinions, the Figaro... Let's start again. Hello, welcome back to Real Opinions, the special Halloween episode where everything is significantly more intimate. Yeah? Why are you giggling?
Yeah, just keep staring into each other's eyes while you say that.
So today we're going to talk through our favourite horror films of our lifetime, so the last 21 years. It's 20 years with us, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're both 20.
We're both
20 years old.
Now that you the two have left, isn't it?
Yeah. So our favourite horror films of the last 20 years, basically. Harrison, would you like to get things off to a flying start?
I think I'll start with The Descent,
Yeah?
which is probably, I think it's really
Arguably the best one.
Yeah, I think it's actually my favourite straight horror film.
Mm-hmm.
Like the others that I picked kind of like blend genres, whereas The Descent is pretty much a straightforward horror film. Like The Descent's about a group of women who are all into like extreme sports and things. Like they like to base jump and they like to go river rafting and things, and they take some time apart after like an accident kind of like separates them all, and they go spelunking to kind of like
Spelunking.
yes,
I just found that
it is
word.
a funny word, isn't it? It doesn't sound like it sounds like it's some kind of poo thing.
That means they basically go like cave diving, don't
Yeah, they go exploring an unmapped cave, and so like the first half of the film is just a survival cave film. There's no like the horror element's not there.
Mm.
The horror comes from like the claustrophobia, which is really well handled. Because I'm not a claustrophobic person.
Like, most films don't have like an overwhelming psychological effect on me, but I'm pretty sure The Descent is the reason I'm scared of going tunneling and cave diving and stuff.
I think
like
it's a
that.
fairly weird thing to not be afraid of.
Yeah, but it like really scares me. Like, there's very few things that I can't not do that I wouldn't at least try, and
But
that is one of them.
Yeah.
Like,
And so then like they go further into the cave, and then eventually they realise that they're not alone.
that's the thing. That's like the
That's
whole...
about halfway point of the film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At least half of the horror doesn't come from creatures or monsters or anything.
But then there are creatures in the cave too. And the reason I like it so much is firstly it's a creature feature horror film, which I really like. It's probably my favourite one. It's probably my favourite subgenre of horror. It's got some nice gore, which is always cool. But it's just really, really well directed. Neil Marshall, who directed it, he knows how to maximise the tension out of all those things like the claustrophobia, out of the creatures. So it's like the thing we were talking about with the Hallow, where it's not just like there are monsters, run. Like every encounter's kind of got like a little different identity to it, and everything's always changing up and escalating, and it's just really intense. I think it's just a really intense film.
It doesn't really let up.
Yeah, once it starts, it is just 45 minutes of intense jump scares and gore, and really cool, well-designed creatures, which I think they're good creatures. They look really good. Anyway, what's yours?
Oh, I guess one of my I don't know. I wouldn't call it my favourite, but definitely one that's up there. Wes Craven's Scream, which I know is a pretty obvious one to go for, and it is probably
Just fits into our time bracket.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
it's like
2 years.
one of the biggest horror movies ever. Definitely one of the biggest slasher movies ever. But the reason I'm picking this is because it's given me a lot of inspiration in general. Like just studying this and kind of watching it. It's got such a great hold on the slasher genre, and it was one of the first to do that whole kind of postmodern like we know we're a horror movie sort of thing. And it's kind of the definitive version of that. And it's clever in its jokes. It's not kind of like too silly with them. It's not too up itself either.
It's a good horror film as well.
Yeah, and it's a good horror film as well. Like the violence in it is pretty shocking. The actual killer reveal, the first time I watched it, did indeed surprise me. It's just a genuinely really well-made horror film, which in the last 20 years there haven't actually been that.
Yeah, they're not. They're all
especially in
cheap.
slasher films.
Yeah.
Slasher films especially either get really cheap or try and go really meta, like The Town That Dreaded Sundown, and just don't work.
Bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think it's important. Like you're right, it is a very inspirational film because I know that I think New Nightmare, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, is a similar thing. Was a couple of years before Scream, but it did change slashers forever because you either got those ones that were self-aware or the ones that were trying to avoid cliches, because it's like, you know, when you make a James Bond film after Austin Powers, you have to like change everything up, and that's why you got the Daniel Craig films. It's a similar thing of like making a slasher film after Scream had to be really different because of it, because if you stuck to the formula from before, it would now be laughable because of Scream. Cool. Are you sure you don't want to get involved and just bitch about films you don't like?
But like what?
Bring up the pyramid. Ow! Ow! Guess my next one is Let the Right One In, or Let Me In. Both kind of work. So Let Me In. Let the Right One In is the Swedish one. Yes. From 2008, and it's about a young boy called Oscar who is bullied and who is kind of has like a fragile relationship with both of his parents. And one day, a young girl moves in the apartment next door, who turns out is a vampire, and who lives with this old guy who isn't her father but kind of looks like he's her father, who goes out and kills people to get blood for her. And basically, it's kind of a horror film, but this is why it's not my number one, because it's not really a horror film.
It's horror and romance, really.
Yeah, it's kind of a coming of age sort of romance, but they're kind of like, I don't know, it's not explicitly a romantic relationship, they're just kind of like friends. It's nice, it's a nice film. We were talking about this earlier, because you think that it has quite a dark ending, but I think that the whole thing's just about kind of a lonely kid getting a friend, and sort of like, and kind of like taking control of his life and overcoming all those problems.
We won't spoil
no spoilers, but I think it's quite a touching, sweet, nice film. It's also, in terms of the direction, it's really kind of subtly handled.
Definitely.
Unlike a lot of like, you know, horror films that really kind of can be really heavy-handed. Like, there's no big loud jump scares. Everything's quite elegantly shot. The music's quite subtle. Everything's really toned down and
Swedish.
Very Swedish. Then there's Let Me In, the American remake, which definitely plays up the horror aspect of it.
Yeah, well, you take it too.
But yeah, they're the same film. I feel like I'm allowed to do that, alright?
Fair enough.
But it definitely plays up like the Stephen King-y aspect of it, I think I'd call it. But it's much more of a horror film. But I think they're both equally good, because they do different things better than each other. Like, the Swedish one does the whole subtlety thing better, but Let Me In's got like the really cool bit in the car that's like a single tracking shot, and the whole kind of like slasher feel with the guy with the bin bag over his head. And I think that they're both equally good and equally worth recommending. And I think it's also nice because they both came like in the middle of Twilight fever, and it was just nice to see something that kind of took the vampires seriously and kind of made them not cool but interesting again, rather than just whiny, sulky shovel faces.
Shovel faces.
Yeah.
My next film is Ben Wheatley's Kill List, which isn't 100% a horror movie, like you were saying about Let the Right One In. It's not 100% a horror movie, but it's definitely got horror elements, and they definitely play up. Yeah, they definitely play up more in the last third, and at the very end. It has one of the most shocking and kind of disturbing endings to pretty much any film I've ever seen. And it's basically about, it's really basic, really, isn't it? It's these two hitmen that stumble upon something they shouldn't have stumbled upon, and they kind of end up down this severely disturbing rabbit hole. And yeah, it's kind of Wicker Man-esque. That's the only way I could kind of like describe it. It's kind of that weird horror as opposed to like slasher or haunted house or anything.
Yeah, it's a very you couldn't label it very
it's
easily.
very, and it's its own thing, which I like.
Well, I think on the poster it says something like the scariest Hitman movie of all time. Like, and like better than all those other classics of Hitman horror. Like
the Timothy Olyphant Hitman movie was pretty frightening for obvious reasons. But it was, I don't know, it's got that kind of darkness that pretty much every Ben Wheatley film has. I mean, he's blended it with stuff like comedy and stuff in Sightseers and High Rise, but here it's just out and out dark.
Yeah, it's a very grim film.
There's nothing particularly funny about it at all. And Neil Maskell and Michael Smiley are the two leads, and they're good together, but they're kind of very. It's like a buddy movie almost.
Really dark, disturbed.
Like a really dark, disturbing buddy movie, and they play off each other really well. And Neil Maskell is one of the most frightening characters.
But he doesn't have to do anything.
Exactly.
He just
He's
looks
just
like
got
a scary
very
man.
scary face. Because have you seen Utopia?
Yeah,
He's very frightening in that.
he is. Yeah.
And he's just an unsettling presence.
But I'm not like a big fan of Kill List, but there are moments in it that really do disturb me.
It's full on brutal.
That weird waving bit is creepy, and then the bit with the hammer. No spoil, but the bit with the hammer is incredible.
The bit with the hammer is just and the very very end, because it just comes so far out left field. There's no way in hell you can even try. And
it's like it's one of the few films where I go, well, I genuinely didn't see that coming.
And it's got a really really grim kind of final. Note.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, as far as horror being genuinely disturbing, genuinely grim.
It's scarier than either of the films I picked.
And actually bothering you to your core, Kill List is like the one, basically.
Yeah.
What's your next one?
Full stains on a stone.
Back on, put on the Kinky Smurf.
Stain.
Right, what's your third one?
Yeah, so my favourite one is also one that I wouldn't necessarily go and call full out and out horror, but it's definitely at least half horror. And that's The Cabin in the Woods, which is a film that I loved so much I saw it 5 times on the day it opened.
You do talk about it a lot. Whenever any horror movie or the horror genre in general
as good as The Cabin in the Woods
brought up, it's always The Cabin in the Woods, always.
Yeah,
and it's why are they not showing The Cabin in the Woods? They should just show The Cabin in the Woods 6 times.
They should show how it's the best thing.
Wouldn't go that far.
No, it's the best thing. It's
better than Kick-Ass?
It's close.
Then it's not the best thing.
But it's directed by Drew Goddard, who wrote The Martian and
Bits of Buffy.
Lots of things, and it's obviously got Joss Whedon's input too. And it's a film that's very hard to summarise without spoiling, and to spoil it would be significantly damaging to it.
You just got to say it's in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, it's like traditional horror film setup, but then we won't something else. Yeah,
which is revealed from pretty much the opening of the film. But
but you still don't know what. And it's a film that it has its twists, and then there's a twist to the twist, and then there's a twist to that twist. But each one tops the last. It's funny. It's really, really funny. Mm-hmm. Really, really quotable. Really, really fun. And then the end is one of my favourite last 20 minutes of a film ever. Because it's do you know what Chekhov's gun is?
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like they point out what could happen, and then they go, well, now it has to happen.
And they do
and it goes full on. Yeah. And I really,
the
really
last
love
act is just...
It's mental.
Because I felt
in a good kind of way.
The first time I saw this, I thought it was going towards a certain ending. I was like, that's kind of a bit predictable. And then it just kind of flips a little bit, and it goes even further down the rabbit hole. And it's really hard to talk about this without spoiling it.
Yeah.
But it goes so far down the rabbit hole that I was just kind of... It goes to the completely fun horror side. Okay. My third and final film is... Really?
It was sweating. It was sweaty.
My final film is...
We're bringing 3D into it.
The Spanish zombie? I guess it's a zombie movie, isn't it?
Yes.
Wreck in the 2 little brackets.
Yeah. For record.
Yes, for record. And I mean, Wreck 2 is really good as well, but I think Wreck 1 is just... There's something about it. It's a very limited setup. It's all set in one apartment block. It's about the outbreak of what they assume is a virus, and it turns all the people in this apartment block into zombies, and they start killing each other, and it's all filmed by a news crew. So it's kind of found footage, but better than found footage. It's
because they're trained professionals, so they're not shaking the camera everywhere.
They stick to their guns with it. They don't have friggin' GPS signals from the satellite, whatever, and they don't have random establishing shots or anything. It just runs with it. It's cheap. It's nasty. It's I mean, it's fun, but in like a grim way. I wouldn't. Call
Yeah, I
it,
know
like,
it's enjoyable.
It's not funny, but it's enjoyable because
Yeah.
it makes you kind of jump and laugh at the fact that you're jumping and stuff like that.
It
um,
delivers.
It delivers what it
Yeah,
says it's going to
it's
do.
not like some of these other found footage films that use their found footage like set up to get away with nothing happening.
Exactly. And it is, especially the final act, the very end, is probably one of the scariest bits of a horror film.
I agree. I think we've been talking about the final acts in a lot of them, and I think that's what makes these ones so good, is that they actually...
You've got to amp it up.
And they actually pay off in the ending.
Exactly.
And yeah, I agree, Rec definitely does that.
Anyway, that was our favourite horror movies of our lifetime. I feel like, there you go. Happy Halloween.